Chapter 3 Unreliable Memory. New Toronto Undercity, Access Chasm 24D, October 10th, 2263, 18:23 hours. No one said anything else for a long while. David gave Sam a pointed look, but she shook her head as if to say, "I'll explain later." Santiago opened his mouth to continue his questioning, but he seemed to think better of it, backing off. Budgie landed on Jason's head, settling into a sitting position and staring down at him. "We've got to go back to the village with something to show for this mess. How much salvage do we have left?" Sam asked David. "Well, we still have some parts we stripped from those robots," David said, dropping the plasma torch and pointing out Talos's burlap bags that he and Jason had loaded with the robot components. "It's not much compared to what was on that transport, though. That stockpile had months of supplies that we're overdue for." "I guess that's something," Sam said, unable to completely hide her disappointment. Mayweather and Santiago spoke in low voices to each other, appearing to agree on something. Soo-Hyun tried to interject, but Santiago waved her off. As Sam continued wiping Jason down, Santiago marched right up to them and said, "There's something wrong with Jason. He's not right. And who is ABADDON?" Jason looked up at the militiaman with tortured eyes, unable to speak. What could he say? I don't... "Sam, you need to tell us what's going on with him," said Mayweather, turning his attention back to her. "If you want us coming on salvage missions with you guys, this kind of situation is not what we had in mind." Sam held up a hand. Sure, I get it. But first, please help David break apart Talos's salvage bags and get him ready for transport back to the village before it gets dark. With Talos out of commission, we're going to have to carry them all back ourselves. After that, I'll tell you guys everything, I promise. There are some things you should know." She gave David a meaningful look. He raised an eyebrow, but he got up and headed over to the bags. Santiago's lip curled, but he backed down. "Fine." Mayweather gave Sam a narrow-eyed glance, but he nodded as well. "All right." Soo-Hyun glanced at Jason, who was still wiping dead nanophage solution off himself, but she followed her comrades after David without comment. Sam closed her eyes, summoning the last of her mental reserves, which were nearly bled dry from her efforts to stop Jason's incident. Focusing her mind sight on the backs of the militia's heads, Sam gave their minds and brains a tiny Abrahamic nudge. Santiago, Mayweather, and Soo-Hyun swayed on their feet for a moment, as Sam's psionic push took effect. Soo-Hyun stumbled, turning around and blinking rapidly. Sam watched the girl's eyes sliding in and out of focus, hoping that she hadn't overdone it. David looked up from the salvage bags as the militia dragged their feet in the dust, staring in complete bewilderment at each other and their surroundings. David's gaze darted to Sam, whose eyes were cooling down again from hot pink. She gestured to the militia, making a looping motion with one finger at her temple. David's eyes narrowed, but he caught on and returned his attention to their militia friends. You three doing all right?" Soo-Hyun squeezed her eyes shut, holding her forehead. I don't know. I don't remember. What the heck? What happened? Where are we?" Santiago and Mayweather seemed to share the sentiment, eyes bugged out in confusion. "What's the last thing you remember?" David asked. Soo-Hyun thought about it, brow furrowing. "We were about to go on a salvage operation with you guys. Something about a crashed ship, I think. But where's the ship?" David grimaced as a lie wove through his teeth. "About that, you guys were exposed to something nasty aboard that transport vessel. Might have addled your brains a little bit. Seems like you're coming around now." Santiago looked around, squinting his eyes at the open air beyond the Permacrete cliff. "And Talos? He was here. What happened to him? Where is he? Yeah, about him, David said, extending a hand. We lost Talos when the ship went down, and barely managed to get you guys off in time. Let me check your vitals. Come here. He glared at Sam as the militia approached him, wide-eyed and pale-faced, but David dutifully checked them all for injuries. Sam pulled out a small syringe, found a vein on her forearm, and gave herself a small hit of osmium. The microdose would dull Sam's powers for a short time, but her pounding psionic headache had reached a crescendo with that last push of her abhamic abilities, and she desperately needed some relief. Sam refocused on Jason, who was still wiping himself down. He glanced up at her. It keeps telling me to find it. I don't know what we'll do when we do, but we have to try. I don't think Abaddon will stop until then. I'm scared, Sam. Keep your voice down. I don't want to risk messing with their minds a second time, Sam murmured, looking up at the militia before handing Jason a spare rag from her supply backpack. But yes, I agree with you. Whatever Avery Oakfield and those scientists did to you must have linked you to the obelisk somehow. We're going to need to break back into the Science Institute to find Abaddon and figure out how to sever that connection, which won't be easy. Getting inside those labs will be the riskiest thing we've ever done, especially with all that high-tech security they've got. How long do you think we have? Jason asked, in a near whisper. What? How long do I have until this happens again? Sam paused for a moment. I wish I could tell you, Jason. The Abaddon beacon has never reached out to you so directly before, so I can't predict when it might try it again. One thing I am sure of is that we need to keep you away from anything infected with the nanophage. I saw it. Abaddon used those robots to get to you. Seems like anything infected is a conduit that it can use to mess with the wider world. That's it? No other way to know if it's coming? Not really, Sam said. We don't know nearly enough about the beacon for that. Giving you a timeline is impossible, because this never happened to me when my abhamic powers were maturing. We need to prioritize finding safe leads to get back inside the Science Institute. And fast. Will that even be possible? With our workload after this? Jason asked. We'll have to find a way, Jason. God damn it, Jason moaned. What did we do to deserve... Enough with that. You'll be fine, Sam said. We'll get you onto a higher dose of osmium again. That'll keep the beacon off our scent for a while. Just don't go near Doc Janice's medbay when we're back home. She's got a lot of phage-infected people waiting for treatment in those cryopods. Even if they're all in suspended animation, we can't risk you detonating like a psychic grenade if Abaddon attacks you again in the village. Jason stared at Soo-Hyun, Mayweather, and Santiago. I could have killed them. And I did destroy Talos, too. Oh, God, I'm so sorry, Sam. Sam hugged Jason again, wiping some congealed nanite solution out of his tangled hair. You didn't, Jason. That bastard scientist Avery Oakfield did, when he did this to you. And we'll make him pay. Jason was still working through his shock. I saw the beacon, Sam. It showed me a world of dead stars and an endless sea of blackness. It pulled me down. I couldn't breathe. It was nothing like my dreams. It all felt real. There was no way to fight it, Sam. The only thing we can do is what it told me to do. We have to go back to the labs. We'll find a way. We'll get in there, find out what Abaddon is, what it wants, and how to beat it, Sam said, giving him a determined look. Come on. First, we need to locate a water source and get you properly cleaned up before we go back. I also want to get a good look at where Talos landed so we can figure out retrieval. And then, we're going to need to explain everything to the governor. As the artificial sun crossed the Atmodome into late evening, the salvagers hauled their meager findings and weapons back up through the Undercity's levels toward home. With diminishing light coming in from outside, The level of danger in the underground was increasing by the minute, as the phage infected seemed to always be more active at night. Jason hoped they had left with enough time to return behind the walls before the phage bearers began to prowl, as Yamamoto had warned. He had witnessed groups of them stalking and ripping apart other undercity dwellers with ease. Talos had been their ace card when it came to larger encounters with the infected at night. Until now, anyway. Jason kept his head on a swivel, heart hammering, reflexively twisting the knob on his repaired osmium inhibitor any time he heard the slightest noise echoing down the abandoned tunnels and ruins of the city's substructure. Any encounter with the infected could now become another battle with the obelisk. David eventually had to put a hand on Jason's shoulder. Easy there, brother. We're nearly home. Soo-Hyun, Mayweather, and Santiago kept to themselves on the trip back. It was clear that they were not pleased with how the excursion had went down. This was understandable, given their failure to retrieve most of the treasure trove aboard the cargo vessel, and their near-death experiences, of course. As the 6 of them passed through the hollow shield, and the village became visible to the naked eye, several lights snapped on from atop the ramshackle defensive wall, illuminating the wide kill zone covered by the settlement's automated turret guns. Old bullet holes and blast craters dotted the expanse, along with a few charred robot and skeletal human corpses, the only remains of previous assaults on the village from various infected undercity denizens. Cold, blistering winds were coming in off the lake, far chillier than the earlier afternoon breeze. Jason spotted the repair ships out by the city's containment wall, still working on the Atmos shield against the dark green backdrop of howling superstorms outside. At David's urging, Budgie took flight and flapped several meters above their heads as a signal to the village guards that they were close by. A voice called down from the defensive wall. "Oi, is that you guys? You're late." Holding up a hand to block the dense light beams, David answered. "Yes, Charles, it's us. We got a bit held up." "Where's the big guy?" the militiaman asked, removing his goggles and looking around at the kill zone. Sam stiffened as she responded to the wall guard. "Sorry, we had an accident. Talos is offline." "What?" Charles exclaimed. "Offline? But for how long?" This perked up the rest of the east wall guards, who gathered above as the gates scraped open. Jason spotted Governor Yamamoto rushing toward them. Mendez hobbled after him, with several armed guards in tow. "Where the hell have you been? Sundown was an hour ago," Yamamoto demanded, hands on his hips, looking from Jason, David, and Sam to Santiago, Mayweather, and Soo-Hyun. Jason held up his hands, voice unsteady. "Sorry, Governor, we had a bit of trouble." "A bit?" David took over. "Yeah, a bit." A guard came over with a scanner, waving it up and down their bodies. "Whoa, I'm getting trace detections of phage matter on you, Jason. Lots, actually. Jesus, it looks like you took a bath in the stuff. You too, Sam." "Yeah, we encountered some nastiness out there," Sam said, wiping her gloved hands on her filthy pants. "Not our finest hour." Yamamoto shook his head. "Let's get you all over to Decon before that stuff finds an open sore and infects you or someone else. We'll have to destroy your clothing and a lot of your gear, too. Get at that phage crap spreading into the population. Looks like you brought back a few things, though. The quartermaster will have something to do, at least." David held up their bags of meager findings. "That's something, anyway." Mendez's people ushered them inside the wall as the gate handlers cranked the controls. The old security chief regarded Sam as the doors screeched shut. "Where's your Tin Man? He's supposed to take up the evening shift on the west barricade, which started half an hour ago, by the way." Sam clenched her teeth. "I'm sorry, sir. He's 12 levels down from where we were, total by the fall. We're going to have to do a few retrieval ops to find his core components. Then I'll start a rebuild." This sent a wave of murmurs and complaints through the surrounding militia. Yamamoto folded his arms. Mendez's mouth dropped open, and his gray eyebrows furrowed. How'd that happen? Sam looked at the ground. It's a long story, sir. I'm sorry. One of the guards on the wall rotated a mounted flood lamp to spotlight the group, prompting Mendez to angrily wave it away. Sam glanced at David, who then recounted the altered version of events that he'd given the militia earlier to keep their story straight, that the Ganesh of Mesopotamia had suffered an equipment failure, while Jason and their new recruits had been aboard, followed by an explosion that had released some kind of nasty shipboard substance. They'd managed to get everyone off before the ship went down, taking Talos with it, though David carefully omitted any references to the real cause of the transport vessel's demise. Silence fell. Yamamoto pinched the bridge of his nose, shooting Mendez a frustrated look. This is a major setback, he said. Very disappointing to lose that much salvage, right when we need it most. But we knew the risks, and at least you've all come back in one piece. With the exception of Talos, of course. Mendez nodded. Talos alone accounted for 40% of our guard rotations. Most of our people will have to pull double duty until we can train some new bodies to compensate. Not that we have many to choose from. This elicited a groan from most of the surrounding village militia troopers, including those who were in off-duty casual clothing. How long to get Talos operational again? Yamamoto asked Sam. A few weeks, minimum. Ballpark estimate, Sam said with a grimace. The collective militia force groaned louder. Several of them fired insults and complaints from the wall top, prompting another angry shout from Mendez. Quiet down, you lot! We better pray that we don't get a full-blown phage migration during that time, Yamamoto said. And I regret not drawing up any backup procedures if we lost the Tin Man. It didn't seem possible that we'd ever lose him. We won't be making that mistake again. I am glad he's recoverable, though. Losing people is unacceptable versus losing salvage. I'm sorry, sir, blurted Jason, fighting down the guilt. Really, we tried everything we could to save him. Santiago held his head. God, my head is killing me. Whatever we were dosed with aboard that ship, it must have been bad. Yamamoto regarded the group. Anyone else? Soo-Hyun and Mayweather nodded. Jason did too. Shit. After decon, you will all report to Doc Janice. She'll check you for any noggin damage, Yamamoto said, jerking his thumb down the main street to a lit-up prefabricated medical building at the other end of the village. It's better to be safe than sorry. Mayweather looked at Mendez. Sir, I don't think we should be heading back out there with them. He shot David, Sam, and Jason a wary glance. What these guys do, it's dangerous. Santiago inclined his head in agreement. Soo-Hyun gave Jason a sideways look, but she nodded as well. It's too risky for us, sir. We don't have enough experience for these crazy undercity excursions, and I think it's too dangerous for us to get more. We did try to warn you, Sam said. Santiago looked at her and shrugged. I guess I'll give you that. You did. Mendez sighed. With Talos out of commission, we can't afford to send more of our militia force out, even if we wanted to. We're just too short-handed. David, Sam, and Jason will have to continue operating as our sole excursion team for the time being, especially with the loss of that transport ship. I don't want to know how much useful cargo went down with it. Too much. Like losing computer files that you can never get back, said David. What a bloody waste, Mendez said, thumping his cane on the ground. Yamamoto whirled a finger. Enough chit-chat. Get on over to decon, and clear out everyone else. Nothing to see here, back to your duties, or go grab dinner at Xerxes' place. At his order, the crowd began to dissipate. Santiago shot Sam, David, and Jason one final look, then traipsed further into the village, hefting his burlap salvage bag over one shoulder. Mayweather and Soo-Hyun followed him, plus several other off-duty militia, who were all still asking them questions. "And after you're done with the doctor, I want a more thorough report on what happened out there," Yamamoto said to Sam as they passed. "And an accurate timeline on Talos's rebuild, since that'll be faster than a scratch build, right? God damn it, we've got a lot of reorganizing to do." "Yes, will do, sir. And again, we're sorry. Things could have gone a lot better out there," Sam said, wincing. "There's always tomorrow. Now get out of here, and get yourselves a clean bill of health from the dock. And then, get some rest. You'll be on double repair duty and double salvage duty until our supply situation is corrected," said Yamamoto, who turned to Mendez as the older man pulled out a data tablet and started jabbing at the scheduling screen. Jason, Sam, and David obeyed, heading after the militia, attracting plenty of stares from nearby residents. David leaned toward Sam. "Bit of a risky move, messing with their minds like that, don't you think?" "Would you prefer that they tell the entire village about Jason? About what really happened back there?" Sam hissed. "We have no way to explain it. No one's gonna believe that there's an evil alien obelisk somewhere in this city that wants to possess him. And even if they do, that's all the more reason for the governor to kick us out for being a risk to the entire village. And he might not be wrong to do so." "Well, now we've got another problem. Those militia don't know what happened out there. And that might have them wondering why," David snapped back. Jason twisted the knob on his repaired neural inhibitor, letting the drugs cool his rising stress. "Guys, I think we've got bigger things to worry about now." "Yeah, like finding Abaddon and getting to the bottom of what's going on with you," Sam said. "So, that's what you two were talking about. Going back into the lion's den, risking discovery by the Federation, or worse, Avery Oakfield himself?" David asked. "That's what we're doing now, huh?" "Yeah, much as I hate to admit it, it is," Jason confirmed, drawing strength from what Sam had said before. Ahead, he saw Soo-Hyun cast a final glance back at him, before she turned around and followed the militia. Jason continued, "We've got to find that bastard obelisk, and figure out how to stop it from messing with me, or anyone else." David's lips formed a thin line. "The fun never ends, does it?"